Greetings and good evening, all the gentle people out there. This is Energy with the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. Today we're going to talk with Grumpy Dungeon Master Jay and talk about the energy drink, Dungeons and Dragons Heroes Potions of Power. You got your drink? Let's bust it open. Yeah, let's go.
I feel like we need to get the Beer Bandit Bruce on here if we're talking energy drinks. Yeah, because I don't know anything about energy drinks.
So the Dungeons and Dragons Heroes Potion of Power is a caffeinated cherry lime flavor energy drink. It comes in a small 12-ounce fluid can. It has 160 calories and 40 grams of sugar.
Only costs $12.99 for a single can.
Only costs $3 for two. They were on clearance.
Because nobody bought them. Probably because marketing didn't tell anyone that they were out there.
It's not bad. It's very cherry. By
the way, I just want to point out, this is the intro of all of our intros that I've immediately hated the most.
Okay, great.
Just throwing that out there. But I would expect you to be nothing less than a shill. So,
energy with buds. Yep.
Yeah, energy with buds.
Yep. Actually, this is the only thing I had to talk about today too, and I wanted to get it right out of the gate and done.
I mean, you sent me some link. You sent me like 4 links earlier of the same thing that I assumed you had already read through and wanted to talk about because you sent them like 5 minutes ago, and I have no idea what this is about.
Yeah, we'll be talking about some things from the upcoming book here later. But the energy drink was the only thing I really had. My wife went to box lunch over the weekend. Spent half of her paycheck. Box lunch is
right. We heard you told me about that yesterday.
Yeah. So box lunch, for people who don't know, is a store that sells nostalgia and fandom at an obscene price. So when I first walked in, there was like a Barbie display with a bunch of Barbie shirts and Barbie merchandise. They had like a Studio Ghibli section. They had the pop wall section. It's like Hot Topic, but not punk rock ish.
Yep, I got you.
If you call Hot Topic punk rock, and it's not Spencer's either, but same vein, but just more high scale. You know, these are for the nerds that have paychecks.
Got it.
They had 2 things in the store that I actually cared about. They had the complete Toho Godzilla lineup. They had Godzilla, Baby Godzilla, Rodan, King Ghidorah, Mothra as a larva, and I can't remember the Spidey Porcupine's name.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all you.
And then they had the Heroes Potions of Power Dungeons and Dragons energy drink. That was it. So I'm going to be drinking this throughout the show, getting more and more hype as the show goes on. Because
so much energy.
Sugar. Well, it's more the sugar that's the problem. Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to die.
Yeah, I mean, your diabetes probably is not okay with you drinking these.
And it's 40 grams of sugar and includes 40 grams added sugars.
How many ounces?
12.
Oh my lord. That's so much sugar.
I'm guessing, so from here on out, I'm making the canonical decision that hero potions taste like cherry lime flavor. Because this is a red can. So
in all of your D&D from now on going forward that you're running, if they get a healing potion, that's what it tastes like.
Yes, cherry lime. And all elves speak Spanish. Elvish is Spanish.
Elvis is what?
Elvish, the language, is Spanish.
When did that become a thing?
A couple years ago.
Huh. Okay, yeah. Well, it had always been Orcish before.
No, I mean, I think a lot of people make Spanish Orcish, but I just don't think that works well.
I don't think that truthfully, I don't think that using real world languages as fantasy languages works at all because they're fantasy languages. They're not supposed to be real languages.
If I'm going to give the orcs anything, it's probably going to be the angry German. That would make more sense. Or angry Italian, you know?
Maybe
Russian even, you know?
Yeah.
Like, not Spanish. Spanish is too high energy for that. Um, but it came about because I read something where there was some kind of exchange student who wanted to play D&D, but he only knew Spanish. And there was
Oh, okay.
someone who could speak Spanish in the group. And so the story is the person that just happened to be bilingual was half elf, and the Spanish guy was playing uh, an elf. So that group basically just said, "All right, well, elves now speak Spanish," and the guy basically translated the Elvish to everybody.
And somehow this story from somebody's from somebody's table made it into D&D lore throughout the world, apparently.
Well, at least my world, yeah, and that's all that
Okay,
matters.
because I had never heard of this story, but
Why would orcs be Spanish? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know. That's what I don't even know where I picked that up from. I know I heard that at the LARP years ago,
Well, okay, that makes sense then. That's
but
just that's just Shadowmoor though.
it could be.
Being crazy.
It could be. I don't know. But once again, I don't like the idea in general of real world languages
Ugh.
as fantasy languages. Make your own, damn it.
Yeah, you know how easy that is?
Well, you don't actually have to make your own. You just you tell people they speak Elvish, and that's it.
Yeah, and then J.R. Tolkien takes that and runs with it and creates a whole entire language out of it.
Well, that was sort of his shtick.
I
I'm
mean,
glad, I'm glad that he got time to play D&D and make it a thing.
so he created Elvish as an actual language. I know Klingon's an actual language. What other fantasy languages actually?
Dwarvish probably is a language as well.
Probably. Speaking of languages, but kind of different, but also in the same vein. There was a tweet earlier last week that one of
You
our
mean an
listeners.
X?
No, it's still called a tweet
I
until they
heard it was
figure out
called.
how to change
I heard it was called a post now.
a post.
Yeah, apparently he's. I haven't been on Twitter. I have not looked, so I have no verification of this. But a thing that came across my feed today on Facebook, the other social media platform, was that he had removed the word tweet when you go to tweet something and had put post there.
Well, right now when I'm on X right now,
Yeah.
it's still twitter.com and it still says tweet.
All right. Good to know. That was false information
Yeah. I mean, it could also they could
for
also
the
be rolling
moment.
it out too.
For the
Yeah.
moment, yeah.
That's been a train wreck. Anyways, in the same vein of languages, someone posted a tweet in our Discord, one of our listeners, and it was a chicken noodle soup box from Trader Joe's.
Only
And
$6.99.
for some reason, and you could look at this right now in our memes channel, Jay. It says chicken noodle soup with veggies, and it's in the D&D book cover text font. For some reason, I don't know why.
I'm having to
I
scroll
don't
down.
know
Oh,
what
okay.
font they really used,
Huh. Sure shit is.
but that's sure as shit the D&D cover as an adventure in every box.
Yeah, Trader Joe's chicken noodle soup with veggies, and it's in the exact same font as the player's handbook.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple different fonts, and we talked about that on the Discord. I guess Modesto Bold condensed is what they may have used there, and then I listed Andata SC and Mr. Eve small caps as the ones that I use for my publications because they also look like the D&D font. So I'm not sure which one they use, but it's close enough.
Yeah, that's how I can tell that you've spent way too much time in your life as an editor and just doing other stuff. The fact that you named multiple fonts.
Well, the
Let's see. I know Comic Sans is a font, and I know Comic Sans. Um,
Times New Roman.
yeah, I wouldn't have remembered that one, but when you said it, I was like, yeah, I know that one.
And the current one that Word uses is Calibri,
Yep, never
which I
heard of
hope
that one. So
which I hope the god goes away soon. Um, I always, whenever I write a document, I always have to go in now and change it the default back to Times New Roman because they're trying to move away from that. Um, I don't Calibri's fine. I just don't. I like having the little.
Is there an
Uh,
Elvish font? Hang on, let me look.
oh yeah, there's tons. There are so many fonts out there that you can honestly find anything that you want. Like I wanted one that looked like letters, the big bold letters that had frosted caps on it for my Dread of the Ice Devil book. And I think I spent like 15 minutes on Google and I found one perfectly. And all I had to do is just link to the creator's site to use that font. Now, I definitely don't want to use a font without paying for it because then I get sued forever. You know, the font mafia is out there, and they'll break your knees if you use a
So
font illegally.
can you use every font that's in Word without
Yes,
worrying about that? Okay,
yeah. All the fonts that are in Word by default are open source fonts. But
got it.
if you want to get a different font, you
You
need to be
better pay the mob.
you better pay that mob. They'll find you.
Huh. I learn new stuff every day.
Yeah. Well, like
Yeah.
you can go to DM's Guild and they have templates there for you if you're writing stuff. And when you download those templates, they provide the fonts for you too. So that's helpful.
Yeah. As somebody who's not ever tried to write anything on a professional level and probably never will, it's not something I've ever even thought about.
Well, you can do it whenever you put your mind to it and actually do it.
Oh, I know I could. I just don't really care if I don't want to. I much prefer just doing my own writings for my own personal usage. But
Mm.
I'm very glad that there are a lot of people out there who do that kind of stuff, of which I'm going to be talking about one of them here in just a moment. So, not the
Cool.
font so much, but a new book I picked up.
Ooh.
Yes.
Uh Also Baldur's Gate 3 comes out next week, I believe.
Thursday is release day. So, we have to figure out what we're doing.
I mean,
This,
we could play it, but it'd only be me and you because I don't think anyone else we know would play it during our streaming times. But
well,
I'm worried. I'm worried if the game is not going to be good. I
what,
know I have a feeling that it's going to be good. I trust the company very well, but I've been so burned with video games over this past like 2 year block, and the fact that that early release playthrough I did of Baldur's Gate 3 kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. I just I I want it to be really good. I just don't think it's going to be.
my hope is that they just sort of play it like actual 5e D&D. If you just use the rule set from 5e D&D, it'll be fine.
It
You know,
really, I mean, you played the beta, right?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I had no
So you
problem
know
with it.
that that's not how it's built. It's built with its own unique rolling system for skill checks.
I'm just saying, that's what if they want to do it right, if they want to do it and know that it will be good, that's what you do. I've talked about it several times on here, but there's a video game out there called Solasta, Solasta. It's literally just 5e D&D rules, and the game is fantastic, and it's cheaply made. You know, the graphics aren't great. Like the whole thing is just sort of weird. The dialogue is kind of poorly written, and the game is fun as hell because it's 5e D&D rules, which everybody listening to this podcast for the most part should already know. As for Baldur's Gate 3, I don't. It's been so long since I've touched it. I don't remember enough about it because that was what 2.5 years ago when the alpha came out, the pre-alpha, whatever the hell that was.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, if it's not using that exact system, well, that's a mistake on them. Either
Oh
way,
well.
we have to figure out whether we're streaming it or not streaming it. I know this week we're still on 7 days, and we'll see after that.
Yep. All right. Well, I I didn't play any games. I didn't feel good enough to play Adventures League this week, so I
Yeah,
don't really have any fun chaos. What I will say though is that I don't know what's going to happen. The week before, we didn't talk about it because we talked about Planescape all last podcast, but
hell yeah, we did. It was awesome.
I think I mentioned my group getting basically essentially TPK'd, but instead of TPKing them, I had them all become imprisoned by the group that they were trying to infiltrate. Because the players were playing smart, but just the module was against them the entire time. Like I said, I don't remember if I talked about that or not, but so, but the point is that we left that session with them basically being captured and thrown in prison, and then I couldn't be there next session, but I know they had a session, and I didn't ask them how it went. No one texted me and said things went bad, but I don't know what they did. So
So
this
another
upcoming,
so another DM picked up where you left off and ran them.
yeah, yeah, I don't know what they did.
Man, that's probably going to make for an interesting story next week.
So that was all a dream. You were actually still in prison. You're getting beaten senselessly every day.
Yeah, I mean, you were so close to death, and the prison food was so bad. You had a fever dream. Now we'll get back to the real game.
So it's going to be interesting. But most of the AL group is waiting for Bigby's to come out. I don't know why they're waiting for Bigby's to come out.
Okay.
Because there's nothing I can do with Bigby because it's just a monster manual,
Well,
really.
so which one did you link to me? What is that?
That is, I linked you earlier before the big podcast began. The feats and the feat discussion for the Bigby's book.
Okay, so
Because
it is the Bigby's book, aka
yeah,
the book on giants.
yeah, and that's the only information that's really come out. Hard to fact about what's going to be in Bigby's, other than their short description of the book. Now, what's weird about that is the video is on YouTube. It's on D&D's actual channel, and overall, it's fine. They kind of discuss all the feats without mentioning specifically what the feats do. Okay,
So
so
how?
one person put together exactly what they talked about and the changes that happened versus the 2022 Wonders of the Multiverse Unearthed Arcana that came out. So it's been so long since that Unearthed Arcana came out, I forgot that it existed.
It's been a while. I don't even think it's been that long since they've come out. It's just we've stopped talking about them because we
Yeah,
don't care anymore.
but
Uh,
I was going through that Unearthed Arcana, and I realized that this actually it's both Bigby's and it's Planescape.
okay.
So it might be worth taking another look at this.
Um, okay. Yeah, I'm just kind of skimming through the feats that they've got listed. Also, there are 21 feats listed in here.
Hmm.
Um, my thought on that is, where was that 4 years ago? You know,
Well, I mean,
that's what the players have been screaming for years is more feats, more stuff, and now we're seeing
well,
it.
a lot of the feats, especially the giant ones, okay,
Mhm.
you start by picking Strike of the Giants, okay? So the Strike of the Giants feat basically says you have absorbed primeval magic that makes you echo. That gives you an echo of the might of the giants. Choose one of the kind of giants listed below. As a bonus action, you can call a power of your giant magic to imbue your attacks with additional power. And then there's Hill Giant, Stone Giant, Frost Giant, Fire Giant, Cloud Giant, and Storm Giant.
They're leaving out
So,
a lot of giant types, by the way.
well, that's all the giants that exist.
Nah, that's definitely
So,
not
so let's say you pick Hill Giant. Well, that then gives you access to or was it here?
one of the other feats.
Keenness of the Stone Giant, which you can then pick at level 4. So it's a prereq. You have to have it at 4 and Strike of the Giants. And that just gives you like this ability to throw a stone as a bonus action and stuff like that, and increases your ability scores.
Okay, I think you got
So
those mixed up though. You would have to pick the stone giant one to get keenness of the stone giant.
yeah, so I said
Well, you said
you
hill
got.
giant, but anyway.
Sorry, you know what I meant.
Yep.
Everybody knows what I meant. But
I'm just making sure that we got it.
those are cool, and a lot of people like those. I still haven't really seen them matter much. No one played Dragonlance to my knowledge.
Yeah, pretty much everybody who plays Dragonlance is still playing it from second or third edition.
But you also get Strike of the Giants if you pick the giant background, the Gate Warden, I believe, gets no, the Giant Foundling. Sorry, the Giant Foundling gets Strike of the Giant for free, and then if you're a martial class, you can also pick up Strike of the Giant as well.
Okay.
So they made it available for people to pick up by themselves, but if you have this Giant Foundling background, you get that feat for free, which is pretty much what people wanted.
Yeah.
But when I was reading through this, what caught my attention was the Gate Warden background. Okay. So the Gate Warden, um, depending on what they are, what the personality is, you get different planar infusions. So then I was like, oh, that's interesting. There's actually planar stuff in this.
Yep.
That must be for Planescape. And I think it actually is indeed for Planescape.
Yeah, that would make sense. So that 21 feats I just mentioned, they're probably 10 for one book and 11 for the other book.
Yeah, pretty much. But I remember we were asking about Planescape having a lot of issues with your alignment. Okay. And we were wondering whether or not alignment would make a big return in Planescape. And that's when I found, where is it? Where did it go? I need my energy drink. Hold on. Cherry lime flavor. Delicious. Maybe it was the feet.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
Hopefully
here
you're
it
able
is.
to find it.
Here it is. So, one of the feats is called Scion of the Outer Planes. It says you are influenced by and adapt at navigating planar pathways and the strange realities of the outer planes. Whether planar essence infuses you or you have extraplanar ancestry, your connection to the plane infuses you with the energies found there. Choose a type of the plane listed in the planar infusion table below. Your choice gives you resistance to a damage type and the ability to cast a cantrip as specified in the table. And essentially, it has plane, astral plane, chaotic outer plane, evil outer plane, good outer plane, lawful
Lawful.
outer
Yep.
plane, and the outlands. So, in each one of those has like psychic, necrotic, radiant as a resistance, and random cantrips that don't really
Yep.
do much. But that's probably what they're going to do. They're not going to have alignment at all, and just say that you are part of the good outer plane, thus you get the good access to Sacred Flame and all these other spells and abilities.
Yeah.
Instead of having, if you're coming from a lawful outer plane, you don't have to be a lawful good click character at a lawful outer plane, which would make no sense, but I'm guessing that's what they're going to do.
Oh man, that would be ridiculous if they did that, but I wouldn't be surprised at all. We talked about it several times on here that they're really just pushing to do away with alignment in general. But because of Planescape, if you've got evil outer planes and chaotic outer planes and so forth, you can't completely do away with it. But taking planar infusion, like it doesn't say anything about your own alignment on here. So I
Hmm.
could, according to this, feasibly, I could play an evil, a chaotic evil tiefling, and then say, "Oh, I'm from Mechanus. I'm from a lawful outer plane, so I'm going to get radiant damage and the guidance cantrip," which is absolutely dumb. It just is. It does not make sense, But uh, that's where the DM should step in, and I'm really leaning towards this more and more and more. If the rules don't tell you something, you're the gosh darn game master. Just tell your players no. They'll get over it or they'll leave your table. And if you lose a player because they can't understand that you can't play an evil character and then get good traits out of it, that player probably shouldn't be with you. But
Yeah. One thing I noticed too in the Planescape book was they didn't mention a new race. So
Mhm.
I'm guessing the glitchling that was talked about here in this Unearthed Arcana
Yeah,
is not making it through, which I don't see why it wouldn't. It's just it's neat. It doesn't seem like it's going to break anything, but maybe just ran out of pages or something.
Could be. Or maybe they've decided to hold it off for a later book. I
Um,
I
in
don't
the
even like.
video,
I know we went through all of these a year or two ago, but man, I don't
yeah,
even remember. I don't even remember most of this stuff.
one thing they did say in the video was that they have definitely retooled all the feats and the abilities coming out in Bigby's to align with the 2024 release of the Player's Handbook.
Okay.
So essentially, what that means to me as a DM slash player is that Bigby's is the first of the new 2024 books. This
Uh,
isn't old fifth edition. This is them. We've already decided how these books are going to play out
oh, to
when they
me they
come
did
out.
that. They did that shit with the second Morden Cannons, in my opinion. When they retooled how all the monsters work, at that point that was a
Maybe,
not really a new
maybe
addition, but they were setting up for it.
right, but this is the first time they came out and actually said this book is written with 2024 in mind. So
Yeah, but
this
they
is
were already writing with 2024 in mind, whether they publicly said it or not.
maybe,
Definitely. I mean, you
maybe.
can tell they did. They did a complete rework of how monsters actually work.
I will say though is that it hasn't bothered me, especially at the table playing Adventures League. Like I still have to look up some spells, but I don't have to manage a huge amount of spells. I just have like the per days. Just check them off as I go. Playing them is pretty easy. But when I play online, I go out of my way to choose the legacy ones because it's easier to
See?
track
Yeah.
those online than they are the newer variants.
Yeah, it hasn't
So,
bothered
so
me either because when I was running 5e, I just used the legacy stuff anyway, and now I run Pathfinder, so I don't really care.
what bugs me a lot though is too is that sometimes I have to look at the monsters whether they're legacy or not, and look at both of them and choose
Mhm.
which one I want. Like the best example I have is the Duragar Hammerer. Okay.
All right.
So when you look at the Duragar Hammerer in the new book, um, he has he's a siege monster, so he does double damage to objects and structures. He has multi attack where he has one claw attack, one hammer attack. That's fine. Then he has a reaction called Engine of Pain, which he immediately after a creature within 5 feet of the hammerer hits it with an attack roll, the hammerer makes a hammer attack against that creature. That's the current Duragar Hammerer as it's listed in Morning Cadence.
All right.
Now, the Legacy one is so much more interesting than me. So the actions and the multi attack are the same: one hammer, one claw. It's still a siege monster, but Engine of Pain is different. Okay,
All right.
Engine of Pain just says once per turn, a creature that attacks the hammerer can target the Duragar trapped in it. The attacker has disadvantage on the attack roll, but on a hit, the attack deals an extra 5 1d10 damage to the hammerer. The hammerer can then respond by using its multi attack with its reaction. Now, called shots is not really a thing in 5th edition.
Yeah.
There are people who are new to 5e try it all the time. And I understand that that's a monster that has a called shot basically
Mhm.
built into it. I wish they did that more to make called shots more of a thing. Because no one I've ever played with has gone out of their way to attack the hammer inside directly
Yeah.
instead of attacking the outside of them.
Yeah.
And I really wish that that was a thing they had in 5e
To,
more.
to be fair, people probably don't know that they can do that on that monster.
Yeah, and
Uh,
that's true.
Yeah, like that's a DM has to tell them they can. One other monster I've always wished, well, a couple of them that they should have had the idea of called shots is with hydras and with chimeras.
Hmm.
Anything with multiple heads, there should be some version of called shot in there. Called shots it was like optional rules when I started playing, like second edition, but even then, it wasn't necessarily a full-on rule set.
Yeah,
But yeah, that it complicates the 5e monster more by having that minutely, and they're trying to get rid of any complications, as we've well seen, even if
Well,
it means narrowing it down and just making it kind of blah, kind of boring.
the thing is too is that the problem is that now that that called shot is gone and the extra damage is gone, and now that the hammer can pretty much just make a free attack if it gets attacked as a reaction,
Hmm.
its CR should have gone up from 2 to 3, I think.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
Because it's doing a lot more damage because you're always going to make that free attack. It's told to use its hammer, so that's 2d6 plus 3 every single turn against a monster that hits it. You
So
know?
now, does it get that one? So it uses a reaction
Yeah.
to. Okay, so it's just once per turn, but it's
Yeah.
not. If they're not attacking the monster inside, now it just always gets to do it. So it's
Yeah.
still. It is a little more dangerous.
Yeah. But they didn't think about that when they redid all the monsters from Legacy. And there's a couple others. I can't remember any other examples right now. But there are a couple others that have changed, like, from all their attacks are magical to now they just deal force damage. Um, the Astral Dreadnought's one of those.
Yeah. We,
But
I
then
don't
there's
know.
also some
I
other
don't even know why that would have changed. It's the same damn thing practically.
same damn thing practically, but I think they wanted to give monsters that were really big their own like specific damage type. You
Make a new
know,
one.
yeah,
Because
make a new one, call it Siege or some shit.
yeah, call it
You sh-
massive.
yeah, you shouldn't be resistant to a Terrask attack if you're a barbarian.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you're not wrong.
Yeah, and
But
Terrask need fire breath.
no. Well, that's Godzilla. That's the Tarask of Tarask.
This is in my final form.
Yeah, the main thing that I remember, and once again, this is a topic we haven't talked about in a long time. I remember them changing all of the spells and basically getting rid of monsters casting spells and just giving them abilities to do spells.
Yeah, and
And
that's worked out pretty well, I think.
yeah, that was the big thing that pissed me off the most, that made me hate that idea because I want them to have spells. And in my games, nothing. Once again, nothing ever changed. I was not going to ever use the abilities thing. If you want to give them an ability on top of the ability to cast spells, I would have been fine with that. But not
Okay.
removing spells altogether. But to each their own.
Yeah.
So
I'm
yeah,
dreading
this
2024.
I'm
Starts
I'm not. It's
starts next week
what?
with a book release with Bigby's.
Oh, I'm not dreading it because I don't care about any of it. I'm not running those. Not running 5e anymore.
My
If
world collapses.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of other games out there. My goal at this point, I'm running my Pathfinder game. I'm basically converted my 5e over to Pathfinder. I'm going to finish that campaign. That'll probably take me 6 months or so. After that, I'm going to just start exploring all the different tabletops that I can. Like I own a shitload of them that I never run or get to run anymore. So I'll probably start doing one shots in all of those different settings and maybe start picking up some other ones that are out there because I keep seeing all these awesome settings and just awesome systems online. I'm like, man, that'd be fun to try that. But
Yeah, for
yeah,
me, it's like I really want to run Dark Sun at some point in time.
yeah,
And since they're never going to make another Dark Sun, I get to choose if I want to run it in 3.5 or 4.
they didn't have it in 3.5.
They did it?
No, a second edition or fourth.
Hmm.
I'm verifying that, but I have never seen a Dark Sun third edition.
Yeah, Dark Sun 3, Burnt World of Ashes.
Uh,
Yeah.
I don't see it.
The
Core.
official Dark Sun website.
So somebody else made it. It's not an official. It's not an official thing.
It's on Drive Through RPG as a PDF document.
Um, it might be
Published
PD.
by Athos.org, the guys who currently own Dark Sun.
Yeah, so it's not an official thing. Got it. It never was released in third edition. They might have made PDFs of it, but there's no physical books of it.
Well,
Because
regardless.
Athos is the name of the planet of Dark Sun.
I
So
know.
it's just it's a bunch of dudes who decided to write some fanfics, in my opinion.
No, like if you're gonna say that, then Kenzer because they continued working on their set and their setting after it got published in 3.5. They have new books coming out
Yeah,
for
but
that.
Kenzerco was their own setting. They were a third-party
Yeah,
publisher.
right. But I mean, like, if people are writing other official material for it,
If they had released physical books for it for third edition, if this company had gone out of their way and actually had physical printings from it, then I would call them a third-party publisher.
okay,
But as it's just PDFs, it doesn't even exist to me. If I can't buy a physical book of it, I'm never going to use it. You should know that by now. That's the same reason. That's one of the reasons that I didn't go to Advance 5e fully was because I
okay.
didn't have the books.
So you can buy um, the books through Drive Through RPG as physical hard books.
Okay, well that's good to know.
Okay, so does that count or no?
I mean, if it's print, print upon purchase type thing, sure, whatever. It means I could get the books. So there you go. Run it third edition. You hated third edition. You fucking detested third edition.
I played it once.
I
If I want
how
to play if I want to play Diablo 2 or Warcraft tabletop, I'm gonna have to learn third.
that's true.
But I could also run Dark Sun as fourth. So
Yeah, which you already, for the most part, know. It's been a few years since you've run it, but it wouldn't be hard to pick back up.
it would just be the only rule that would change for me is like, okay, this is how you make your characters. This is the character builder. Spend the next 17 hours making your level 1 character. Good luck.
Well, if you only allowed them access to the Dark Sun material that you owned,
It
wouldn't take
probably yeah,
wouldn't take that long.
it's true.
That's what I do a lot of the time. I only let people build out of the books that I physically own because
I really
it'll
wish D&D
save
Beyond
time.
would bring that into it. You can limit what books get shared, but you can't like create a campaign and then say you only get these books with
Really?
it. Yeah, it's really weird. It's kind of backwards logic and it doesn't even work right.
Yeah, like with Pathfinder Second Ed, there's a website Path Builder 2e that a lot of my players used it when converting their characters over. And if you pay them the initial fee, which is like $5 or $10 to get access to everything on there, you can still limit what your players would be able to use. Um, so if I said you can only use the core book and this advanced players guide, nothing else, they could actually change those settings so that it would only pull up feats and stuff from those books.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'm surprised D&D Beyond it doesn't have that level of customization, but I know
From
they
a
are.
billion-dollar company, you would think it would.
Well, they weren't until last year. They were independent.
From a $800 million company, you would think that it would.
No,
Come
I'm
on.
saying is it was an independent company
Oh,
before Wizards bought
that's
them.
true. Yeah, you're right. That is fair. I guess I can't shit on
You
them
know,
too much for that.
they were giving weekly developer updates, and they had a really cool roadmap and an awesome guy that talked about how to do things that they essentially fired, and now he makes the tabletop for the Dragon Prince. So good for him.
Hell yeah. I'm actually way more interested in that than I am 5e.
I'm not.
Dragon Prince was a good show. I liked it. I
It's
need
a
to
new
finish.
season out.
I know. Yeah, that's what Dan was telling us yesterday, and I'm like 3 seasons behind now. I need to catch up on it. But
Yeah,
I'm so far behind on all my shows except for The Witcher.
the company that made the new Dragon Prince tabletop is called Demiplane.
Hmm.
And that developer slash owner or previous owner of D&D Beyond is now the chief development officer of there, and they recently went through and updated all their rule sets to Pathfinder 2e for free. So
Hell
that's
yeah.
cool.
No, that's
Yeah,
really good.
there's a lot of good independent stuff out there. It's just
There is a ton of independent stuff that is fantastic, and we unfortunately we're kind of stuck in the the D&D world, and I'm looking to break out of that. I
so
want to
they
actually start because when I was younger, and mind you, I had a lot more free time, and that's all we did was play tabletop games. But I just played every setting you threw in front of me. I did not give a shit what it was, and I would learn them and I would run them. And I definitely like to get back to doing that.
now you're an old man.
I know, and who gets to play like once every 2 weeks if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
Uh, but speaking of third party developers, so the book that I picked up that I was going to talk about is by our buddies Media Lab Books, of which we talked to Jeff Ashworth on
Hmm.
here a while back because he had released the traps and the what was the other ones? There's one on dragons, one on NPCs, one on traps. This one that I picked up is called the Gamemasters Book of Astonishing Random Tables. And all of the books they've released are the Gamemasters books of insert, whatever it is. This one, however, is not. It is not primarily written by Jeff Ashworth. He is, however, the chief content officer for Media Lab Games or Media Lab Books. Sorry. This one is by Ben Egloff, and hopefully I didn't mispronounce his name. 300 plus unique roll tables to enhance your world building, storytelling, locations, magic, and more for 5th edition RPG adventures. And while I don't do 5e, I've already found plenty of uses for this book because it does have monsters listed in here and it does have magic items that are, make a DC 14 wisdom check, etc. I can so easily convert that shit to Pathfinder that I don't really care. It's got you run into an enemy bandit or giant rats or centipedes or whatever. I can just
Yeah.
pull those out of the Pathfinder book.
Right.
Um,
I mean, it doesn't matter. They're all pretty much universal monsters.
yeah, exactly. And the magic items are generally universal. I might have to change some of the saving throws or the damage, but for a newer DM or a newer like somebody who hasn't run a lot of games, trying to convert this to another system might not be easy, but for somebody who's done it as long as I have, it's sort of second nature.
Well, I mean, like even that, but like it's the MMO thing. It's like level 1 you're fighting giant crabs that are red, and at level 100 you're fighting giant crabs that are
That are
blue.
blue. Yeah.
They're
Yep.
same monster. You can scale them easy enough if you
Yeah.
need to.
Add some more hit points, add a little extra damage, problem solved.
Listen, hit points to all the DMs out there are theoretical.
That's true. Like I don't necessarily even believe in the idea of hit points. It's I'm going to have you fight these monsters until I don't normally do this. Truthfully, I do use hit points, but as a game master, you have the ability to say, I'm just going to have you fight these monsters until the fight is over. When I as the DM figure this fight is over with, or I figure you've done enough to succeed. Don't tell your players that, by the way.
They will hate you forever.
Yeah, it's the dirty little secret that stays behind the curtains. But this book, I'm in the process, like I said, of continuing my campaign from 5e to Pathfinder, and I haven't run it in 6 months or more. We took a long break because players' schedules changed and everything like that. So I guess it's almost been a year. So I'm sort of writing the second half of my campaign. And random tables might not sound that useful when you're trying to write stuff, but the simple truth of it is, I don't even have to roll on these tables. I can just look through the tables to give me ideas. It's something I've always done. Last time we talked to Jeff Ashworth about it, that's what I explained those books were for me. The NPCs, I'm not going to roll up random NPCs or anything, but I can just read through them and it would give me ideas. One of the things that this one has, just as an example, it has a random table, or actually has several random tables for heraldry and crest. So if I'm going to have my players at some point interacting with groups in a new city or new town that I personally, as a DM, have not fleshed out, I can either roll on here or I can just pick. As an example, uh, two golden lions rearing back to back. That's their heraldry, and it sits on a green with an ivory vertical line up the center for the field of the flag. These are very simple things that if you throw them out there to the players and make sure you remember what these mean for yourself, but throw them out there to the players, these locations then have more uh, realism to them. Like I know you're a big fan of Waterdeep in general. You could probably tell me a lot of the heraldry and the crest. You can definitely tell me a lot of the nobles and what they're into, right?
Acquisitions Incorporated. Actually, no, probably not. I'd have to look them up first, but yeah, I know what
But
you mean.
yeah, the books like this.
Outside of Omendron and Acquisitions Incorporated and
Yeah, but like Kelvin
L'Oreal
Black,
Silverhand and
Kelvin Blackstaff. You know, I don't
he's
know
not
what.
there anymore.
Well, okay, but he was there for a long time, and yeah, he would have had some sort of heraldry or some such as an identifier. This thing also has it's got a random chart for books, artwork, other valuables, book titles, art objects. Those are the ones that I, as a DM, would definitely just use as a random chart because I can't tell you how many times my players have looked at a bookshelf and been like, "What books are on the bookshelf?" And I mean, I know it's had to have happened to you.
Yeah, my answer is they're all rotten and destroyed, and you can't read them.
Yeah, a
We're in the
lot of.
middle of the town library.
Yep.
Yeah, they don't have it in the library, and they upkeep the books. They're all rotten.
Yeah.
There's
Well, now
worms in it. They're
now
all
I can just
misshapen.
roll. Now I can roll percentiles and say, "Oh, you find Boogeyman and other mythical terrors from Baba Yaga to the Jabberwock of the Talian Plains." Just random charts.
Yeah, but the problem is that the second the players grab that book, now it's part of your history, and you got a
I don't
right
care.
to counter it. I'm not bringing a Jabberwock into the middle of my campaign. They would die, or it would die in one round.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not
Grumble,
like you haven't
grumble.
been through this before.
See, I actually have the opposite problem, and so I know the tables are great, and I know all the benefits to having those random tables, but I need to not read those tables ever
Why is that?
because well, I don't want to ever use anything in those tables.
Well,
Like
you don't have
the
to
book,
use them. It can
I
just
saw.
give you an idea.
So I saw the book. I was at Books a Million. I saw the book. I picked it up. Went, this is really cool, and kind of like thumbed through a couple of things and looked at some of the chart names, and they were great. But I didn't read any of the entries because as someone who is a creator, is a writer of the stuff, okay, and is trying to kind of break into that field, I can't read that stuff and muddy my mind with that data because then it's not mine and I'm plagiarizing.
You can always everything is plagiarized. There are no new
I
ideas.
I understand, but I can't. Like I would feel bad, and then I would feel like that idea is mine. So I used the Jabberwock very recently. And yes, the Jabberwock was not my thing, but it's now part of the folklore history that's available to everybody. Thank you, Lewis Carroll. But how I use the Jabberwock was unique to me. Now I wouldn't want a random table saying, "Oh, have a book be about a random group of owls in a town that's being hunted to death by the Jabberwock," and that's the book. Now that idea is in my head, and yes, I guess I could run with that idea and create it, which I am, but then it's not mine. It's somebody else's idea that I'm now taken and made something of instead of it being my idea.
It is only not your idea. We've definitely talked about this on here before.
Right.
It is only not your idea if you run it exactly as it's written or very close to how it's written. I thrive on reading this kind of stuff because it gives me ideas. I
And
don't
it's
run.
great.
I've
It's
rarely
great.
ever touch or run anything exactly as written.
No, no. As someone who's not creating and selling content, that's perfectly fine.
If I was creating and selling, I would still want things to give me ideas.
See,
Like
that's the problem.
I'm going to adjust them and make them my own.
that goes out to the comedian dilemma, where two comedians come up with the same joke.
If you tell the
Okay.
same joke, then it's joke stealing.
Well, is it?
Unless you came up with it completely on your own, of which in the comedy world rarely ever happens.
Right. So I'm saying is like that's the same issue that I have with reading people's like book of many ideas. I don't want to read a book of many ideas and go, oh shit, that's a great idea. Now I can't ever use it.
Yeah, to each their own. Like I don't have any issues with it.
Maybe not, but like that's just how I feel. Like I said, I don't want to be. I can't remember who was the comedian that stole everybody's stuff and claimed that he didn't do it.
The one that Joe Rogan called out. What was his name? Carlos Mencia?
Carlos Mencia, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
want to be Carlos Mencia, man. I don't want to get famous saying a bunch of jokes that are just 10% different than the idea that spawned the joke. And you go, no, it happened to my family too. You were a white family in New York, you know.
Yeah.
Like the whole like Louis C.K. and not Ryan Reynolds. That guy looks like Ryan Reynolds. That's a comedian.
Ryan Gosling? No, I don't know.
No. He was in Waiting with Ryan Reynolds. Crap, what is his name?
I don't
Hold
know.
on.
Yeah, just
Uh,
go to Waiting, IMDb.
that's
Figure it
what I'm doing.
out.
Hold on.
Yeah, hold on, everybody, as he Googles this.
Dane Cook.
Oh, Dane Cook. That's right. God, I forgot
When
about him.
Dane Cook had a joke that was so eerily similar to Louis C.K.'s that you could have sworn they both read it and just told it with their own spin. And supposedly Louis C.K. Thought of it first, technically,
Hmm.
and Dane Cook may have heard it, but didn't understand that he may have heard it from Louis C.K. and then spun it to his own thing, which happens. And there's a whole. If you ever watch Louis, his show, this is Louis C.K. before the bad stuff. Um, he actually has Dane Cook on. They actually talk about this like comedian to comedian. It was a very interesting scene,
Yeah.
And he just wanted Dane to go, like, I don't want you to say you copied it from me. I don't believe that you did. I just want you to say that you may have heard the idea and that from that idea spun it in your own way because it's still yours and mine is still mine. I don't want people accusing you of stealing it, but just say you heard it from me and got the idea and I'd be fine with it. But he's like, no, I came up with it myself. You know, it was a scripted response, but that's my problem with these random tables. They're great for DMs. I highly suggest people buy the book, but I don't know from a writing perspective. And maybe we need to get more writers on to discuss this topic.
Maybe.
Ask our guys
I
and
mean, I don't think we've ever asked any of the writers that we've talked to
yeah,
about where they pull ideas from.
because like I understand that you can't remake anything and nothing is new. You're gonna spin it off of something else. You know, my Owl City idea with the Jabberwock is very much based as Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
But I freely admit it. Plus, Alice in Wonderland is public domain, so haha.
Yeah, yeah.
I can make a Winnie the Pooh horror film right now if I wanted to. I'm allowed
Pub
to. It's
yeah,
public domain.
somebody
You
already
just
did
can't.
that.
He can't wear a red shirt. That's the only thing.
That's right, he has to
I
walk around naked.
I can make a Steamboat Willie porno next year.
Nobody can say anything about it. Haha, Mickey, you're public domain.
Well, Steamboat Willie is public domain.
Yeah, yeah, we all know.
That's why
Uh,
they revamped them all recently.
yep.
Again.
Very, very little bit of stuff I wanted to talk about this book. Uh, it has random charts for determining spell scrolls, which I find useful because a lot of times in the DM's
Those
guide, in the DM's
those are
guide,
very useful.
yeah, in the DM's guide, it'll tell you when you roll a random, oh, you get one level 7 scroll. Won't tell you what the scroll is, just you get a
Yeah.
level 7 scroll. So here you go. Now it'll.
Did I talk about my making the random shop table for Waterdeep on here.
I think you did with the AI where you're trying to get it to work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
random item tables. I mean, those are free reign. We
Oh
all need
yeah, yeah,
those.
yeah. This isn't a creative thing. This is just a here's what you got. There's a lot of that stuff in here too.
I actually thought about doing that, like going back. I used to have an app on my phone that I had to get rid of because new versions of the OS didn't want to work anymore. But essentially, it was a dice roller, but it had really cool random item tables built into the app itself.
Hmm.
And the problem was is that the guy tried to micromanage the shit out of you, and the tables sucked. But the concept, the idea is really cool. I would love to make a Grumpy Dungeon Master app. It's just tables upon tables of shit, and a
I mean,
dice roller built in.
I do love my tables. Uh,
Yeah,
the
but
the
you don't have cell phone service in Alabama.
That's not true. Half the time lately, I haven't had internet service though. Shit was off today for about an hour.
Put the chicken back in the little wheel,
I
and
know.
you'll get it
Well,
back.
we just need to feed him more, I guess. The
Don't kill him.
well, hey, if he doesn't run fast enough, he's becoming dinner. Just saying. Last thing on here I wanted to talk about. There's also an unexpected spell scroll results table. And I am such a huge fan of this. They also have one for mixed potions because some people like to drink like 6 potions all in one round.
Hell yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah. But like some of the things are unintended results. The target of the spell scroll is affected by a random spell of the same level. And then it gives you another chart to roll on. The cursed one, the caster that makes use of this spell scroll is cursed and can no longer cast that spell. But my favorite one from there is the 19 on that one. From Kevin in accounting. The individual who scribed this scroll should probably shouldn't have been doing so. When the spell is read from the scroll, roll 1d6. On a 1 to 3, the attack bonus and saving throw of the spell is decreased by 2. On a 4 to 5, the attack bonus and saving throw of the spell is decreased by 1. On a 6, the attack roll and saving throw of the spell are increased by 1. So somebody made this scroll, obviously it was Kevin in accounting, who should not have been fucking scribing scrolls yet. This is why you don't let apprentices do your work for you. I always enjoy these books simply because the guys who are behind them actually have a fucking sense of humor about things.
Yeah. I mean, the book needs to be 10% humor, or else it's going to get boring.
Yeah, and there's a lot. I won't say a lot of stuff, but there's a number of things in there that are just sort of comical, but also useful if you like random tables, of which I do.
Cool. Yeah, I like random item tables. I need to make a couple myself because, like I said, I love that book. I want to buy that book, but I don't want to get any weird ideas from that book.
I mean, a lot of it, yeah. There are so many random tables in there that you can, like I said, there's the mixed potions, the wild magic. There's a common magic items table that these are new magic items, by the way, that are not in 5e.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're fair play.
there's drink names. There's taverns and inns. There's so much stuff in there. Pickpocketing. What do you find when you pickpocket somebody? That's a great one. What do you find when you search a giant's knapsack? So there's a ton of stuff like that that's not going to give you necessarily ideas when you're writing campaigns or anything. Uh, like this book is going to be incredibly useful for me. And the great thing, it's $25.
Yeah, I almost picked it up honestly when I was at the Books a Million this weekend, but I was just like, no, I couldn't do that.
I don't even know how they managed to sell them that cheaply, but I'm
Well,
glad
I
they do.
mean, they're a publishing company. They have pretty much he pretty much has direct access straight to the line to do it. So
Sure, but I mean, Watsy's going to be charging what 60, 65 now going forward for books of lesser quality.
well, I think Bigby's is going to be good. Um, I think the quality is going to be there, and I think Planescape is going to be good.
When I said quality, I mean they fall apart easier.
Do they?
Uh,
I never had a book fall apart on me.
oh
What are you doing for your books?
no, dude! Like when my first player's handbook that I bought for 5e fell apart within 6 months.
Yes, but there was a known publishing issue with that, and they offered free replacements for all those books.
Oh well, no, most people did never get that free replacement because we didn't know about it. I'm not the only one who's had issues with it. Like my buddy Mike, he
Are you assholes bending the books in half or something?
no, not even that. I mean, there, you know about all the publishing errors. We've talked about the monstars of the multiverse
Yeah,
one.
but that stuff happens.
Then
But I'm saying, like,
there was a publishing error that my buddy Mike got with the Ravenloft book. I don't remember what it was, but there was some big issue with it. Like
okay, so
I've seen it several times, and I'm just one dude who's only seen a handful of books.
so I am not a manager for publishing. I've never handled any direct um, distribution of a physical product before. Okay, but I've taken enough classes in it and seen it enough to know that 10% of your product that you try to publish and push out there is going to get lost, whether it be like from something got misprinted or the book was faulty or there was a bad error or it's printed upside down. 10% is like that margin of error. All
That's a
right.
really big margin of error.
It isn't really.
Eh, that eh,
You're talking about
any other business is going to go out of business if you have 10% of your product just lost.
So my wife bought the set of like these dragon eye dice. Okay. She kickstarted them like in 1998 and she's still waiting for the products to arrive. And
Kickstarter wasn't even online in '98.
so they like the whole part about these things are like you have like this crystal clear resin and some there are different shades and you can see the eye is looking at the top value. It's like your D20, the dragon eye is looking at the 20.
Yeah,
They developed some kind of tech to basically manufacture these. They call it dead center technology, and they are over there in England, or I think they're in England or one of the small islands close by. And they the Kickstarter was successful. They haven't shipped over here to America yet, but they did the release over in England. Okay, and um, of the first batch that came out, there was a lot that had like resin bubbles in the die.
sure.
Okay, and a couple of the eyes were a millimeter off center. Okay,
All right.
all right. And then my wife read off the numbers. I don't remember what the number was, but essentially it was 10% of the product
The very first printing.
of the very first printing
Sure,
was defective.
that
Okay.
happens.
And I'm like, that is perfectly within the margin of error, in my opinion. Now, are they going to offer replacements? Yes, they offer replacements for all the products that was bad. They're giving out new ones. So that 10% is fine. So of the original first run of the D&D books, I know the player's handbook had a problem, and there's a good majority of those that basically just fell apart at the hinge because the glue was bad.
Yep,
Okay,
that definitely did
that
happen.
that happened. I know that, but they also offered a replacement player's handbook for all those who wanted one. So I don't get that issue. The monsters problem, that's hilarious. That's
Yeah, yeah.
awesome.
That's a
And
printing error. Printing
it's
errors
a
happen.
printing error, and those happen.
It is on the outside of the book, which is a big mistake.
Yeah, but you got to think these companies. They're Cynthia Williams, who's causing all the problems with Hasbro right now. It's not printing the books out and causing the problems. Okay, you have to give some margin of error. If the company doesn't replace it, then they're a shitty company. But they will replace it. So people need to get off their little high horse, especially the people that got the bad dice, and just get the replacements. I understand you were looking forward to it. I'm sorry that it got bad. But Jesus, don't have a conniption fit on the internet and claim that your life is over because your dice came out wrong. I was listening to her read the email and it was just the guy. I think like the previous conversations he's had with people, he has just had it with all the people bitching and complaining about the
The-
smallest errors that
yeah.
exist. And when
So
10% of their product is bad, that's within the margin of error. It's on the higher end of the margin of error,
yeah.
but it's still fine.
Let's talk about this real quick. So First off, you're talking about a small company that's printing dice or having dice printed for them. And it's a new technology and it's the first printing of it.
I'd give it 25% error.
I Dice are finicky anyway, especially if you're doing weird stuff with them, because you're dealing with resin. So
Yeah, and
expect problems.
yeah, and
With
the thing is, like these Dragonite dice are supposed to be perfectly balanced, okay, so that that gem that's in the center, looking up at the 20, doesn't affect the die roll.
Yeah,
Okay, so you're already looking at a super hard process to begin with because no die that has any object in it will ever roll any kind of random number. It always defaults to some shit.
yeah. So you gotta give that company some leeway. Just give them some room to breathe because that is not all. That's not going to be their fault. And if they're trying to replace it or fix the problem, let them. Now let's talk about Watsy,
Okay.
billion dollar company,
Hmm.
been in business for a very long time, printed a lot of books or had a lot of
Yeah.
books printed. My
That's
assumption, my assumption is with the 5e stuff, that at least the initial, the player's handbook problem, and I'll give them some room on that one because they probably were, while Watsy had been around a long time and but it was still a new edition, probably even new printers, like,
hmm
not using their previous guys or whatever.
probably
So
100% that. Yeah.
yeah, so sure, that they, and the fact they were willing to replace it, okay. Um, then just going forward, though, the printing error on the Monsters of the Multiverse, it's not ending anybody's world. It's not really that big of a deal, but it's just kind of hilarious that a billion-dollar company lets that through.
Yeah.
Uh, then there was the issue, and I really wish I knew what it. My brain isn't remembering what it was, but my buddy, when he got that Ravenloft book, there was some serious issue with it. Like like I don't remember the exact issue, like purple printing ink on the inside or some shit like that.
hmm
This is not something that should be happening by the point that book comes out because
Well,
they've had time to. Yeah, I understand 1 or 2% of books might have printing issues, but those should not be released out into the public. And a
well,
company that big should be able to handle that.
so you gotta think about it this way. Um, so the first run of books that came out had that glue problem, whatever.
Yeah,
It was probably they probably outsourced their book to a number of different printing companies at different places across the United States
most
or even
likely. Yep.
overseas.
Probably in
Okay,
China. Let's be real.
right? Maybe even just they shipped to China for the outsourcing. Who knows? I don't know. Um, and even if those printers, even if there's one guy that did it 100% right, there's no guarantee that he is going to continue having a print store at this time and age. Okay, so they probably have to get a whole new set of printing people pretty much every year for a new book or something like that, depending if
Could
the
be.
company
Yeah.
gets sold or turned around. So it's never the same printer, you know. Now the file sending it with the incorrect N, that's hilarious. That's 100% on Watson.
Yeah.
That's not a printing problem. But they're consistently getting good printers that produce really good books. Um, I haven't had an issue. Like every once in a while, you see one that's like the book is upside down and backwards inside. Like, how does that happen?
And that's the
And is
kind of stuff I'm
you
talking
know,
about. That
but
y-
they're still going to sneak through. They're still going to push that book, and they're going to order a reprint of Dragon Heist and push out another 100,000 copies of Dragon Heist. They're going to get a new printer for that. That printer is going to go through doing some stuff. They're going to screw up, but that's not on Watsy. That's on that printer company, you know, because they're just handing the file over. Now,
yeah.
maybe they should have vetted a better printing company, or maybe the guy was just asleep at the wheel printing. It's going to happen. I mean, how many Magic cards are bad
Oh
on
yeah.
average?
Uh,
Like
Nowadays, I don't see very many miscuts, but it definitely
hardly
still
any.
it still
Yeah,
happens. Yeah, it's
it
pretty
still
rare.
happens, but it's still very rare. And I know from watching that recently, they've consolidated their printers to two printers,
Yeah,
one in Japan and one here in the United States. And
probably I want to say it was Theros or right around. No, it wasn't Theros. It was right before that. So, God, what was that? 7, 8 years ago, probably. I cracked 3 boxes, and 2 of the boxes had foils that were in there that weren't supposed to be in those packs, and they were all
Dang,
misprint foils. Like they were just blank foils for the most part.
those are awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
like, but those are so rare. Like, I give the big companies a break. Like, I saw something recently too about the capitalism behind that drives making a pencil.
oh
Okay.
yeah, no, I saw that video.
Yeah.
That was Milton Friedman.
Yeah, and that's a cool concept to think about too. Like how many different hands are involved in the printing of an object. The
Mhm.
fact that it even gets to you in a readable manner surprises the hell out of me.
Yeah,
That's
it
all
is
I'm gonna
amazing.
say.
Yeah, look, I like to give giant companies shit because while
But
they
really,
do
the only thing we can give them shit for is the monsters.
y- in truth, you're not wrong. It's just you got so much money working behind this machine, and everybody, myself included, expects you to be perfect. And the simple truth of it is, you're not wrong. Like there's no way they're going to be perfect on these things. Sometimes errors are going to slip through because it's not something that they can truly deal with.
Yeah.
Um,
Except for you DMs sitting around the table, you have to be perfect every single day. You can't mess up anything. No stress, no pressure.
yep, no pressure. Just like Christian had no pressure coming on last week talking about Planescape as an expert, knowing every single thing about it.
Yep, he did a great job.
Yeah, it was fun talking to him and learning about Planescape. Now, I actively am kind of looking forward to Planescape. I don't know that I'll buy the book, but I definitely want to see it and look through it.
I mean, books.
Oh well, yeah, whatever. The fact they got Dieter Leasy also gives me a lot of hope. A lot of hope.
I really hope in that box set for Planescape, there's like the Planescape book.
Planescape book.
Yeah, so it has like three P's at the beginning of
Oh yeah,
Planescape.
just like Monstars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
That'll be great.
I don't have anything else to talk about. I think we're done here.
This energy drink kicked my ass. I can feel it. My
Definitely don't.
diabetes,
Yeah,
my diabetes is acting up.
yeah. Definitely don't buy any more of that. Anybody.
I need to go drink some water.
Bye, Craig.